What happens when two of television's most popular personalities suddenly clash in a way no one expected? What began as a simple, routine interview on the Kelly Clarkson Show spiraled into one of the most uncomfortable and unforgettable moments in daytime TV history, ending with Trevor Noah leaving the set in visible frustration. But the real story isn't just the dramatic walkout. It's the intense conversation that built up to that moment. How a question about comedy turned into a tense debate, and why neither the host nor the guest was ready for where things went. Before we dive deeper into this unbelievable encounter, make sure you hit that subscribe button and tell me in the comments what you think about interviews between celebrities that go completely off the rails, because this one is going to shock you. The tension didn't take long to show itself. From the second Trevor Noah walked onto Kelly Clarkson's brightly lit set, something felt unusual. The atmosphere that Kelly is famous for, warm, bubbly, and inviting, seemed to be missing that day. Maybe it was the glare of the studio lights, which appeared a little harsher than normal, or maybe it was the audience who didn't have their usual enthusiastic energy. Whatever the cause, things felt just a little off right from the beginning. Kelly, wearing one of her trademark colorful blazers, greeted Trevor with her well-known charm. "Welcome back to the show, Trevor. It's so wonderful to have you here again." Trevor sat down in the guest chair with his easy smile and casual composure. "Thanks for having me, Kelly. Always a pleasure to be here," he responded politely. At first, everything flowed normally. Kelly asked about Trevor's new projects, his transition away from The Daily Show, and his plans for the future. But then, as conversations sometimes do, it shifted unexpectedly. Kelly leaned forward with curiosity in her voice and asked a question that would set the tone for everything that followed. "So, Trevor, I've been thinking about this a lot lately. Do you ever feel like comedy has gotten too political now? Sometimes I wonder if we're losing the pure joy of just laughing for the sake of laughing." The question lingered heavily in the air. Trevor's smile faded ever so slightly, his expression turning more thoughtful and measured. "That's an interesting question, Kelly. What do you mean by too political?" he asked. Kelly gestured animatedly as she explained. "It just feels like comedians nowadays always have some sort of agenda. Like they can't just crack jokes without making some kind of big statement about society. Don't you miss the days when comedy was simply about making people happy?" Trevor shifted in his chair, and those paying close attention could see his jaw tighten. "I think that's a bit of a misunderstanding, Kelly. Comedy has always been political. Even in medieval times, jesters were poking fun at rulers. Charlie Chaplin's films carried political messages. Richard Pryor and George Carlin were tackling tough social issues through humor long before now." Kelly nodded, but her reply hinted she wasn't fully convinced. "Sure, but don't you think it feels different these days? A lot of comedians seem more focused on preaching than entertaining." Trevor raised an eyebrow and asked directly, "Who are you talking about?" Kelly quickly shook her head and laughed lightly, though her laugh felt strained. "Oh, I'm not naming names. I just think people sometimes want an escape. They want to laugh and forget about life's problems for a while." Trevor leaned forward, his voice calm but with a new firmness. "Kelly, with respect, you're oversimplifying what comedy is. For me, growing up in South Africa during apartheid, comedy wasn't just entertainment. It was a way to survive. It was how people made sense of trauma and how they found reasons to hope when everything seemed impossible." Kelly waved her hand, interrupting. "But that's different. That was apartheid. Here in America, people just want to be entertained." The audience stirred uneasily. Some nodded along with Kelly, while others appeared to agree with Trevor. The energy in the room was clearly dividing. Trevor's face hardened slightly. "So, are you suggesting that America doesn't have serious problems worth addressing in comedy? Issues like racism, inequality, or corruption aren't important enough?" Kelly quickly defended herself. "I'm not saying they can't be talked about. I'm just saying not every single joke has to be about that. What happened to observational humor? What happened to just being funny?" Trevor's voice carried a sharper edge now. "It still exists. But it sounds like you're implying comedy that tackles tough issues isn't real comedy. And that's not only wrong, it's dangerous." Kelly frowned, irritation showing through. "Dangerous? Isn't that a bit dramatic?" Trevor shook his head. "No, it's not dramatic. If you dismiss political comedy, you're dismissing comedians who use their stage to highlight injustice. You're saying entertainment should exist in some bubble, separated from the real world?" The studio fell eerily quiet. Crew members exchanged nervous glances. The audience leaned forward in suspense. Kelly, frustrated, leaned back in her chair. "Look, Trevor, I'm not trying to insult anyone. I'm just saying maybe people need something lighter. Maybe they don't want to be reminded of how terrible everything is every time they turn on a comedy show." Trevor stayed steady, but the intensity in his tone was unmistakable. "And I'm saying assuming audiences can't handle truth mixed with humor underestimates them. It's also a privilege not everyone has." Kelly's voice sharpened. "A privilege? What does that even mean?" Trevor took a slow breath, carefully choosing his words. "Kelly, you've had a successful career, loved and celebrated by millions. You can afford to think comedy should only be fun because your life experience allows you that escape. But not everyone gets that privilege." Kelly's expression darkened. "Are you suggesting I don't understand struggle? That I've had it easy?" Trevor lifted his hand slightly. "I'm not diminishing what you've gone through. But your outlook on comedy is shaped by your position. That's just reality." The word privilege hit Kelly hard. She sat straighter, visibly stung. "Privilege?" Her voice trembled with restrained anger. "You want to talk privilege? You've made millions making jokes about America while being from another country. Don't lecture me about privilege," the audience gasped. The words landed like a grenade. Trevor's expression turned ice cold. The silence was suffocating. He sat completely still for a few moments, his face unreadable, while Kelly instantly realized she had stepped over a line she couldn't walk back. "Excuse me?" Trevor said at last, his voice quiet but cutting. "What exactly are you implying, Kelly?" Kelly rushed to smooth it over. "I didn't mean it that way. I just meant people have different perspectives." Trevor interrupted firmly. "No, you specifically pointed out that I made millions joking about America as a foreigner. As if being an immigrant disqualifies me from having an opinion. That's not just a perspective, that's questioning my legitimacy." The room froze. Kelly tried to explain, her words stumbling. "I just think outsiders might not fully capture the American experience." Trevor let out a bitter laugh. "The American experience? Kelly, I became an American citizen. I've paid taxes, lived here for years, contributed to this society. But in your eyes, I'm still just an outsider?" Kelly weakly protested. "That's not what I meant." Trevor's reply was sharp. "You didn't have to. It was in your tone. You basically told me to go back where I came from. Just dressed it up politely." Kelly's face went pale. "That's not what I was saying at all. You're twisting my words." Trevor leaned forward. "Then explain. Because I've heard that argument before, from people who don't want immigrants speaking about this country. So tell me, how was your version any different?" The weight of the moment hung heavy. Kelly's voice faltered. "I think you're misinterpreting. I just meant outsiders see things differently." Trevor shook his head slowly. "Different perspective? Or less valid perspective? Because that's how it sounded." The debate grew sharper, Kelly growing defensive, Trevor refusing to back down. Each exchange cut deeper than the last, the air in the studio thick with unease. Finally, Trevor stood abruptly, his voice booming with controlled fury. "Overly sensitive? Kelly, I grew up illegal in apartheid South Africa, hiding from my government. That's sensitivity. Coming here and having my legitimacy questioned because of where I was born, that's not sensitivity. That's my reality." From there, the clash escalated until it reached the breaking point. Kelly accused Trevor of attacking her, while Trevor pointed out that she was the one who had dismissed his right to comment in the first place. Their words became sharper, their tones more pointed, and the tension unbearable. When Trevor asked if she would have said the same thing had he been born in Iowa instead of Johannesburg, Kelly hesitated. That pause said everything. Trevor shook his head in disappointment. "If I'd been born here, you never would have questioned my right to talk about this country. That's the truth." Eventually, Trevor removed his microphone. Kelly tried to salvage things with a weak apology, but Trevor wasn't buying it. "You're not sorry for what you said. You're sorry for the consequences. That's not the same thing." With that, he walked off the set, leaving Kelly standing there with a stunned studio audience and a silence heavier than words could describe. The interview that was supposed to be a fun conversation about comedy had turned into a raw, painful exposure of deeper issues about prejudice, privilege, and who gets to claim legitimacy in speaking about society. A simple question about comedy had blown open a discussion about identity and belonging that neither host nor guest expected, and the fallout was impossible to ignore. So, what do you think? Was Trevor Noah right to walk away, or should he have stayed to try and smooth things over? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. Sometimes the most powerful truths come out when the cameras are rolling and there's nowhere left to hide.